Beth knows all about it, so I've got her outside.
Good. Bring her in.
Inside, Smith.
Thank you, Miss Bennet.
Any news about Lizzie, Mrs. Davidson?
No, not yet. Miss Bennet tells me that the collapse was brought on by overexertion.
Yeah, you could say that, I suppose.
Trying to protect her home brew.
Look, Mrs. Davidson, it was just a lark, no real harm in it. Just something Lizzie cooked up on her own. No one else had anything to do with it.
I see. Miss Bennet says the brew's disappeared. Where is it?
It's been flushed down the loo. I'm giving it to you straight, Mrs. Davidson. I'm not trying to put one over you. Seeing what happened to Lizzie knocked the stuffing out of me a bit.
Very well, Smith. Under the circumstances, I don't see the necessity for taking this any further. But if there are any more attempts at making home brew, there will be severe punishments. Please make the women aware of that.
Yeah, I will.
I don't know why you didn't tell Miss Bennet the truth in the first place. After all, she probably saved Lizzie's life.
Yeah, you're right. She moved really quickly and knew what to do. None of us would have.
Miss Bennet is a good officer. A strict one, I know, but a good one. I think it's time the women change their attitude about her, don't you?
It'll be a bit hard, Mrs. Davidson, but we'll try. But only for Miss Bennet. Not that other ratbag.
If you are referring to Mr. Gillespie...
I thought you recognised the description.
He is no longer with us.
You mean he's left?
That is correct.
That's the first decent thing that's happened all day.
All right, Smith, you may go.
Oh, there's one other thing, Mrs. Davidson. The telly's on the blink. Any chance of getting it fixed?
Well, that could be rather difficult. You see, after the pantomime, there wasn't any money left in the recreation fund.
Well, how about if we chip in from our earnings?
Well, yes, I could get a repairman then, if the other women are happy about that.
Oh, they will be. They missed their telly. And it'll give us something to take our minds off Lizzie. Thanks again, Mrs. Davidson.
Now, there's nothing to worry about. Just relax.
Just leave me alone. Leave me alone.
Mrs. Birdsworth, I know it's not very pleasant for you, but we have to do our best.
Why didn't you let me go when I wanted to?
Oh, come on. Life can't be that bad that you just want to throw it away.
72 years old and stuck in a bloody prison.
A prison? When they said Wentworth, I just assumed that they...
Been there for over 22 years now.
I didn't realize. How much longer are you going to be there?
I don't know. And I don't care.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And just when I thought I was on my way to heaven, you had to come along and stick your bloody beak in. Why'd you let me go? Oh, I want to go to sleep.
Yes. You go to sleep now.
Night.
Good night, Officer Powell.
Oh, Wendy, have you heard from the hospital?
No, Mrs. Davidson.
Oh, well, I'll ring them myself later in the evening.
Night, Mrs. Davidson.
Mrs. Powell, what's your husband like as a handyman?
Oh, hopeless. What did you have in mind?
Well, we need someone to repair the women's TV set, ideally as cheaply as possible.
Well, if he touched it, it'd never work again. But look, there's old Mr. Humphreys who lives next door to us. He was a TV repairman before he retired.
Well, do you think he would fix ours for us?
Fixed ours on several occasions for almost nothing. Look, I'll ask him about it. He's a dear old thing. I'm sure he'll do it, and he won't charge too much.
Good. I'm glad I asked you. Good night. Good night.
Well, listen, Martin, I've got a story you might be interested in for that program of yours.
Always interested in a good story. What's it about?
Well, I've got a 72-year-old woman here. She's had a heart attack. But the interesting thing is that she's a prisoner from the Wentworth Detention Centre.
72 and still a prisoner. That could be interesting. I'll make a TV reporter of you yet, Trevor. Real sympathy angle. Good one.
Yeah, yes, that's what I thought. You might even be able to help to get the poor old love released. She's a bit of a hard case, but you can't help feeling sorry for her.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of interest in prisons at the moment, what with all the escapes and so on. Look, I'm a bit tied up at the moment, but I'll get back onto you about it tomorrow. Thanks for the thought.
Okay, then. I'll speak to you tomorrow. Bye.
I see. Yes. Thank you. Goodbye. Well, all they'd say was she's as well as can be expected.
Which doesn't really mean anything, does it?
No, afraid not. Well, at least she must be holding her own for the moment. Oh, Wendy, would you type a memo to each member of the staff this morning, please, telling them about the meeting?
Yes, I'll get onto it straight away.
Oh, Mrs. Davidson. This is Mr. Humphrey I spoke to you about.
How do you do, Mr. Humphrey?
Very well, thank you, Mrs. Davidson. Now, I believe you're having TV problems.
Yes, I'm afraid so. The women are really missing it.
Yes, I suppose they would. Well, I know what I'd be like if I couldn't watch the gardening program.
Of course, if it costs too much, we'll have to forget about it because the women are paying for it themselves and I don't want it to be too expensive.
Oh, you needn't worry about that, Mrs. Davidson. I'm retired now. Haven't got much to do with my time. I only charge for parts.
Oh, good. That will be wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Humphrey.
Wouldn't you reckon those buggers would let us know how Lizzie's getting on?
Maybe they don't even know themselves.
Yeah, Vinegar Tits wouldn't tell us even if she did.
Look, girls, I promised Mrs. Davidson that we'd try and be a bit nicer to Vera for what she did for Lizzie.
Yeah, I suppose we have to.
Hear that, girls? It has been nice to Vera a week.
Better stick in our throats a bit, though, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll make the effort.
Wish I was out with Judy. Lucky bugger.
Yeah, she really seems to have given them the slip this time, doesn't she?
Yeah, no word of her at all in the paper this morning, which means they've got no clues as to where she is.
Might be out of the country by now.
Yeah, on my money. Oh, well. Good luck to them. Not that I care.
You're really going to miss that money when you get out there, Doreen.
I'll manage. I wouldn't have known what to do with it anyway.
All right, girls.
Morning, Miss Bennett.
Morning, Miss Bennett. Morning. Why aren't you working, Smith?
Sorry, Miss Bennett.
Mrs. Davidson has asked me to tell you that Birdsworth is as well as can be expected.
That tells us a lot.
Isn't it always the same with hospitals, Miss Bennett? They just never tell you nothing.
No.
Do you know if anybody's done anything about getting the telly fixed, Miss Bennett?
No, I don't. And if I had my way, you'd have no television, radio, or newspapers.
But then we wouldn't know what was going on the outside, Miss Bennett.
That should be part of your punishment. In my opinion, you have far too many privileges.
Well, you are entitled to your opinion, Miss Bennett.
And don't think that you can get around me with all these Miss Bennets. I'm awake up to the lot of you.
You know, I don't think Vera liked us being nice to her. Really rattled her. Biggest favour we could do for her is to go back to being normal. I think old Vinegar likes it that way.
No doubt you all know by now that Mr. Gillespie is no longer with us.
That's a relief. I agree he was a hard man to get on with, but I think we should stick to the regulations he brought in.
Well, I don't.
No, neither do I. It just made more work for all of us.
What do you think, Mr. Fletcher?
Well, I think he was inclined to take things to extremes.
Well, I'm glad the majority of you feel that way because it's my intention to return to the old security methods.
Good.
The interior security gates will be kept unlocked again during the day, and armed guard duty is cancelled.
Thank heavens for that. Felt ridiculous wandering around with that rifle.
You wouldn't if you'd learned to use it properly.
Well, I couldn't shoot anyone anyway, so what's the point?
Exactly.
If I may continue, Mr. Fletcher will be in charge of maintaining the armory, but no weapons are to be issued without my explicit instructions. It will no longer be necessary for you to move in pairs, so that means new rosters will have to be drawn up. All right, Mr. Fletcher?
Yes, I suppose so. It might take me a little while to draw up a new roster, though.
Believe it or not, there is even more good news. An education facility is to be provided for the women and a trained teacher, so that it won't interfere with your normal duties. Something that should have been done some time ago, don't you think?
Oh, I think it's an excellent idea. A lot of the women have had very little education.
Do you really think this lot are interested in learning anything? They'll just try and twist the whole thing to use it against us. Well, it's a waste of government money, if you ask me.
I don't think anyone was asking you, Vera.
Hey, the telly's working.
Oh, good on you. Did you have much trouble with it?
Not once I found out what it was. Some of you been playing around with it.
One of us? Not likely.
Well, I'd say somebody has. One of the valves had been taken out.
Oh, yeah, well, we know who that'd be, don't we, Doreen?
Yeah, bloody Gillespie.
Someone been giving you a hard time, ladies.
You could say that.
He was a real mongrel.
But we got rid of him, so it doesn't matter.
I get a feeling it'd be dangerous to cross you, ladies.
My bloody oath it would. Hey, is it going to cost much?
Well, after hearing that, I wouldn't be game to charge you too much. Now, would I?
You're a bit of an old timer for this sort of lark, aren't you? Should you be at home with your feet up, enjoying the pension?